my name is Chris Gilly-Forrer, and I'm an MFA directing candidate here at the School of Theatre at UNC Greensboro. When preparing to cast a play, I often have very little information to guide that process. For example, in my fall 2020 production of Incognito by UNCG playwriting Professor Janet Allard, I had only this to go on. Jim, 18 years old, played by 5 men. Tilly, 18 years old, played by 5 women. The play's core conceit is that at different points in time, Jim or Tilly leave the stage and are replaced by the next actor to play the role. Think of it like a relay race, handing off the baton to the next person who will carry the role forward. It seemed that in the past, productions had sought to cast 5 male and female identifying actors of the same race in order to help the audience follow the conceit of the play. I had a different idea: to throw race and gender out the window and challenge the limiting effect that they have on the casting process. This is why. The categories of race and gender as we know them are socially constructed. Basically, what this means is that society has defined and attached meaning to them. They're arbitrary. Race is based on skin pigment, and gender as a term didn't even exist until the 1950s. People used to use the term sex, which referred to reproductive organs when referring to the differences between men and women. All of the qualities that we stereotypically associate with gender were gradually assigned over time. Things like men are strong and should lead, or that women are emotional and caregiving. But as we know, those qualities aren't unique to one gender identity or another. Men can be emotional and caregiving. Women can lead and be strong. Gender also isn't a this or that binary, and neither is sex. They're spectrums on which many different identities and anatomies exist. If you're interested in learning more, check out the work of Judith Butler and her deconstruction of gender and sex. It's excellent stuff. As a director, I seek to problematize the production of gender in my work. In other words, I don't look to the restrictive, socially constructed notions of what a person should or should not be like based on their gender identity. Instead, I invite the actors to enter the space exactly as they are and bring all of themselves into the roles that they play.
When casting Incognito, I looked for what I call energetic resonance. Whose natural energy was a good fit for either Jim or Tilly when thinking about them as human beings, not a man or a woman or a specific race? Janet graciously agreed to let me take these big swings, which is not a given when approaching playwrights about making changes to their work, so I'm very thankful to her for giving me that permission. We both agreed that audiences are smarter than directors often give them credit for, and could follow the conceit of the play regardless of what the 5 Jims and Tillys looked like. This opened up a host of possibilities that would not have otherwise been possible had I stuck with the prescribed gender identities of the characters. For example, Jim uses deception and often lies by omission. I could now look for actors of all gender identities for that role who could show me that they were harboring a secret while on stage. Tilly puts up barriers to prevent herself from suffering emotional harm. Now I could look for actors who could show me they were capable of expressing vulnerability. The end result was an ensemble of students of many races and gender identities that reflected the rich, varied demographics of the School of Theatre. That said, casting is one thing. Carrying this into the rehearsal room is quite another. The actors asked early in the process if I wanted them to try to adopt mannerisms from the Jim or Tilly who preceded them. The question had merit. All 5 of the Jims are playing the same person, after all, ditto that for Tilly. But we decided that that would amount to asking the actors to erase their identities, which didn't make sense to us. I cast these 10 people because I saw their natural energy resonate with the role. And that, dear viewers, brings us back to the title of this video, Color and Gender Conscious Casting. It's not just assembling a diverse group of humans when putting your play together. It's the specific consideration of how they exist in this particular play that matters. And that can't happen unless the actors are met exactly as they are and invited to bring all of themselves and their varied identities into the work. I think this quote from one of the student actors, junior BA candidate Brett Esther, says more than I ever could about the impacts of these processes. Brett said, "I absolutely loved the rehearsal process for Incognito last semester. One of the most meaningful things to me about that show was how it was one of, if not the first time, I'd felt my trans identity was more than just tolerated. I felt empowered and encouraged to translate my queer experience into my character and into my work instead of just pushing it aside. That, my friends, is why color and gender conscious casting matters, and why I consider it an imperative for the future of the American theater.